Hey family, before we dive into today's video, I'd really appreciate your support. Subscribing is one of the best ways to help us out tits quick, free, and keeps the awesome content coming. Every listen, like, and share truly means a lot. Let's keep this channel growing. Thank you so much. Story title: My husband won't even let me check him out. I cheated. Help listen later. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't even touch you with a hazmat suit. Now, let's get into this story. It's her original post. She starts out to him. She says, "Hello, and thank you for editing my post. I'm in a somewhat unique position and wanted to see if any O'Neills has gone through something similar. Not the victim here by any means, the victims are mine. Husband, my kids, and my parents, who are living with the burden of my past sins, for which I am truly sorry. Let me be blunt. 19 months ago, I was caught having an affair with a married neighbor and father of 3. I'm a 32-year-old female, and my husband is 39. And the neighbor in question was 27 at that time for confidentiality. I'll call Venaber Steve, my husband Jim, and myself Amia stated. I made a terrible mistake having the affair with Steve, which began a little over 2 years ago. Okay, wait, Amy. Now, she said 19 months before all fits when she was caught, so she was caught in 19 months ago. But the affair started a little over 2 years ago. Well, at the affair lasted nearly 5 months. Mom, before we were caught, I was only with Steve, physically 4 times in total. Ignore readers here. I'm not going to believe that, but I swear this to be true. Well, let me tell you something. I don't believe it now to answer questions of bootney marriage that I know everyone rethinks the songs. Are we having problems? Did I not love my husband? Was I unhappy? The answer is a resounding no to all of those questions. I was completely happy and fulfilled with my marriage, and I love my husband and our 2 boys, ages 9 and 11 more, than anything in the world will identify that. Because if you're totally happy and fulfilled, you wouldn't beckiating on your husband that was totally satisfied emotionally, mentally, and physically by Jim. He was all I ever dreamed of, and so much more. My misplaced attraction to Steve happened from a deep place that took me back to my first romantic encounter when I was 18. It was a feral attraction. Just like my first time, so she's saying, hey, it was like a wild animal. Instinct inside me that madam do this in high school. I dated 4 boys, but nothing serious beyond the quickest at the end of the night. In fact, he viewed all those guys as friends. Since all grew up together. Then one day, he was invited to go to a barbecue that a friend's parents were having their eye. Met Charles. Charles was my friend's cousin from him. The first time I saw him, I was the king. At the time, he was 20 and I was 18. From the moment we met, we couldn't keep our eyes off each other. I don't know what it was, but there was just something between us that drew me to him, like a magnet to steel or a magnet to metal chassis. We started talking at the barbecue. He had to leave for work, so we exchanged numbers the following day Sunday. We met for an ice cream and evening and took a walk. We talked 4 hours, totally immersed with each other. Other and just spontaneously started kissing each other. He invited me back to his apartment, and there I had my first experience. So this girl had never been with a guy before, and in fact, she looked at all the guys that she had gone out with as just no kind of friends, but then she meets this guy that gets her juices flowing, and within, 36 hours, she's having her first experience with him. The guys see how easy it is when a woman really wants you guys. It was magical, better than I ever dreamed of something. About Charles just excited me and made me want to give him every part of me. To this day, I can't describe it. It was subconscious. I couldn't respond. The physical relationship, we had absolutely nothing in common. In fact, wooer. Actually, I broke it off with Charles 11 months later, after the passion wore off. A year later, I met my now husband, Jim. Now listen to this. Listen very closely here, guys. While sparks didn't fly early on with him like they did with Charles over time, I developed a deep love for Jim that was beyond anything he had ever felt. So what that tells you right there is all Jim, who is now her husband, is not her first choice. You didn't want to be in that position with a woman you want to be her first choice after. Not you're going to have a potential for problems in that regard. We're going to see what happens here about it. You can see that the guy that realerted her world and got her juice flowing was this. Charles. It's just very likely that this Charles May not have been a relationship type of guy, or maybe was a guy that didn't have a bright future, but he was the guy that realiterates her inside out. Jim, on the other hand, we're going to find out, is more of a good guy. He's a stable guy. He's a high earner. Those are the kind of men that women want to marry, whereas Charleston, on the other hand, is the kind of get want to be with. Physically hecked all my boxes. I knew he wasted one. Now she's talking about Jim Noel were married. A year later, and/or marriage, had been 13 years of joy until I destroyed it. We were blessed with two wonderful boys that have best fitting image of their dad and have high swim personality. I've given you all of these details because they are two. Why I started the affair with Steve. Steve and his wife, call her Umasha, moved into our neighborhood. They were the youngest couple in development and were quickly welcomed by the neighbors. Surprisingly, Maya Span and I are the second youngest couple, with the rest being in their 40s, 50s, and a few in their 60s. Steve and Marsha were invited to a neighborhood picnic, and it was there that he and I first locked eyes. It was exactly some vibe I got when I first locked eyes with Charles at that family barbecue so long ago. So here's another guy that gets your juices flowing inside the next time I locked eyes with. Steve was at the car dealership where he worked in finance. Westside up front is somebody who has been imprinted on by a strong male, and those males have broken up with them for some reason. And those women never get over those guys. So when you're dealing with women like that, y'all get to tread very lightly, guys. Next, you're into marriage at any ages, especially when you are young, is a very proposition that goes without saying this. A man should never follow a woman. A woman should always follow a man. Now, if I got women out there today listening to me, I know that's going to be controversial, but I'm telling you guys, never seems to work. Out well, when a guy follows his woman next, when shading happens, just end it. I've said this over and over, and I'll keep saying it in every video. Do not try to rebuild the relationship or try again. It just never works. Next, no contact is always the best one, and you saw that very clearly in this story. Next, living a great life as the best possible revenge, because Agronity, this Vicky, is still following. This guy is doing and she's proud of him. Seeing, wow, this guy is doing well in his career. Oh man, he's got a new hot girlfriend, and that could have been Beanham. We could have been building orphan. Now, we could have been getting on with our lives and living a great life in here. I am now living with this 50-year-old divorcee who's got 3 adult children. I mean, she can't be happy. Then finally, marriage is not necessary in order to have a successful relations or a family. Many men think you have to get married in order to have a successful relationship and build a family. You don't, however, you still need to be cautious with that and plan everything out and make sure everything is specified before you jump into any kind of relationship like that. But you can have a successful relationship and build a family without getting married. Those are my thoughts, and now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? How do you think this guy handled it? Would you have done something different? Tell us about it in the comments. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you in the next one. We're in the market for a new SUV, so at the picnic, when my husband found out Steve worked at the dealership, they started talking. We went the following week to look at cars. Steve made sure these salesmen gave us a good deal, and Steve got us great financing. Throughout the closing process, Steve and I were making eye contact with each other, but my husband didn't notice. In that terrible iman that is just disgusting. A few days later, I had towing the vehicle back into the dealership to have mud flaps inside. It was there that Steve and I had our first inappropriate meeting. Now, when I first read this, I was thinking, oh no, tell me that she did it with this guy at the dealership during the date of mine. That's not the case that you're going to see when he saw me in Philmage. He came out to greet me. He escaped to come back to his office as he had some additional information about financing to discuss. We sat down and had coffee for the both of us, and Wes started chatting just like I did with you. He then blurred out and told Method he wanted to speak to me alone. Told Iskus how he was feeling about me, Hesed. He felt such a vibe, and said he saw him glaring at him. I told him I feel something, but it's wrong. He said he knew it was wrong, but didn't care. He wanted. Fast forward to the following morning. We had our first intimate engagement at his house, after our kids went to school and our spouses left for work. Oh my gosh, by the way, my Jim has a good job. And Marka is an LPNA licensee. Nurse, as I stated, Steve and I only had physical relations for times during. The entire 5-month period, there was absolutely no love connection between us, as I loved Jim and Steve loved Marka. What we had was just physical, and I have to be honest, that part was not as good as what I had with my husband, not even close. Viewed it was forbidden, and therefore thrilling and dangerous. I guess looking back now, he think being a stay-at-home mom for 11 years made me desperate for the attention I was getting from this attractive younger man. I just thought he could have this secret adventure for a while and still maintain a loving and fulfilling marriage with my husband Sophus. Woman is the ultimate cake eater. At least she wanted to be. That thought all came to an abrupt end one Thursday morning 19 months ago. Now listen to Ruthapin's here. It was then that Steve and Andy were caught in bed at his house by March's mother, so this guy's mother-in-law catches him in bed. She walked in on us while we were fully engaged and just started screaming gobsons. She first slapped and scratched Steve across the face, Lavinga, large gash with her nails. She also hit him square on the jaw and pulled out 2 handfuls of my hair before I could gather my clothes and get out of the house. So all this old mama bear man shoe is not playing around. She's saying you're not doing my daughter. Dirty mannin', this lady you already, and I'm going to rough you up. I'm not no advocating violence here, but I can't understand how angry this is. Mother-in-law probably was when I got back to my house. I was in total shock at what just happened and the reality of what I had said it. I knew my fairy tale of marriage to Jim was changed forever and could end. Because of this, I sat silent a couple hours just staring at doors, wondering what I was going to tell me husband. I then decided to call Hyman left, an urgent message. Yeah, what are you going to say? Oh man, I said that I had something very important I needed to discuss. He didn't respond, so I texted him. And still, nothing at this point equal that Marcia, or possibly even Steve had likely gotten to him. Well, listen, I can guarantee that Steve did not get to him. Steve the cheater was trying to avoid your husband, and more than likely Mara, or maybe Marcia's mother, a few minutes later. Marka and her mother showed up on our front porch and started banging on the door, and on the bay window, screaming for me to answer. I didn't. They were yelling obscenities, and saved. They knew I was in there and tooping up. I was scared beyond belief, and thoroughly embarrassed. Thankfully, my boys were at school when this happened. That thief finally left, and I lay down on the couch. Crying, I fell asleep briefly and was awakened by the sound of a car door. The driveway, I looked out and saw Miles back. I ran into the bathroom to splash my face and look into the mirror. Going back into the living room to greet him when he opened the door, Love didn't enter. Instead, I saw out the window that he was walking down Death Street towards Steve and Marcia's house. I watched him as he walked down there and entered where he stayed, nearly 3 hours before coming home. So I wonder what Jim was doing down there with Marka. When he came home, I went to hug him, and he just kept me away. I then started apologizing. He said that my apology was not accepted, and he wanted me to leave now. He fell to the floor, crying and begging, and told him I didn't want to go, but I insisted. You notice how in all these stories, the women always go to their knees and start, buying, subservient, and begging. It's just like a ploy. It's like a standard ploy from their playbook. He then called my mother in the phone and told her what I done, and asked her to come over and pick him up. Mom came over. When she arrived, she apologized to Steve and forcibly convinced me to go back to her house 4th night. She then helped me pack some clothes, and I left crying, asking Jim what he was going to tell the kids. Hesed, he would take care of it, and I left broken-hearted and ashamed. Well, I applaud the husband here for saying, hey, I'm going to talk to the kids, because he think the kids deserve to know. Now they are young, so he has to handle this the appropriate way, but I think it's important for him to tell them truthfully what is going on. And what happened that night, I called Jim and Tummy surprised. He answered, when he did, he just said hello and went silent. I told him it was me and that I was so sorry and that I would never do something like this again. I also told him that I will spend the rest of my life making it up. To him, Jim said nothing and just escaped. If I had anything more to say, I saved him and asked him what he was feeling. Had told me, you know what I'm feeling, and started crying. He then said he wanted me to stay at my parents' house for a couple weeks before. I came home, I reluctantly lingered, but asked when I would get to see him and the boys again. He said he doesn't want to see me now, but agreed till Hague. A brief call with me every evening at 9 o'clock. We ended that first call with me saying, I love you, and Jim saying nothing, just hanging up. Well, what did you expect? To say, oh, I love you too, after you just cheated on a guy. Come on our cow. Following night went the same with apologizing and Jim being silent. I quit talking then, told me that he wants a divorce a good move. Jim hearing this, I melted, and begged him for another chance. He refused it. Said he knows he'll lose half his hard-earned assets. Then in the next breath, he said he'd give me everything. Owns if I just disappear and leave him and the boys alone. So this guy, a fat point in time, is thinking, I just want to get this woman out of our lives. The fire broke down and told him, you don't mean that. Jim, and he said yes he does. We ended the call and I cried all night. Ethan started thinking of what I could do to make him stay and came up with Applin to offer him a post-nuptial agreement that would be so favorable. Heckle didn't refuse at all. I wanted was to get a second chance to prove my love. Toheen, no matter what the cost. That following week, while Jim was meeting with his divorce attorney, I was meeting with a divorce attorney myself, not to prepare for divorce, but to create a post-nuptial agreement to present to Jim before. I received the divorce papers. Went to 4 different attorneys before. Found one who specialized in agreements and who was willing to create such a lopsided agreement. Lopsided in that my husband received nearly all the benefit in exchange for remaining married to me for a period of time, thus giving me a second chance at love. Unfortunately, completed the divorce papers in just 11 days, and I was served at my parents' house. 2 days later, I had Jim side with a proposed post-nuptial agreement. We talked that night after her. The proposal, he was a little surprised at what I had to offer, and for the first time I could sense the caring person I once knew coming through me. The angry man who had been cerebratic and end cold for the past 2 weeks. Well, how did you expect him to be warm and loving financially and personally? The agreement was a competent, total win for Jim and an opportunity for me to prove to him I'm worth keeping Jean. Not going to get too specific on what the postnuptial contains, but I will confirm that it does enable Jim to keep all of our marital assets if we stay married and living together for at least 30 months. Additionally, if I were ever to be unfaithful again in what divorce, I lose all claims on our marital assets, get nothing, and forego any alimony and child support payments. The agreement also calls for me to get a full-time job within the next 6 months and begin contributing to an appropriate share of 4 household expenses. Finally, my husband can see other women if heck gooses throughout the remainder of Ermage, so she's offering him an open. I know Jim would never born faithful. It's not in him, but I want Theme to know. I love him enough to give him this option. Know the reason why you're putting it in there is because, like you stated, you know that's not him, and he's never going to be unfaithful. So you have been no risk there. Don't try to fool us to miss a prize. Delight Jim. Accepted deal with one additional stipulation. Jim, what are you doing? You need to divorce us this one. The clause, Jim wanted Aiden stated. There is no requirement for us to sleep together or to have any type of marital intimacy during the remainder of 4 marriage. I was saddened and hesitant to agree to this, but finally did, as I felt with time I would win back his respect. Trust and passionate love, things should not come. As I thought, and that's why I'm here. We are now 17 and 1/12 months into our second marriage, as I glid, and our relationship is one off-bung housemates, raising our boys, don't get me wrong. I thank God every day, 4th second chance I've been given. But what we have wouldn't qualify as a marriage. It's more like we are 2 divorced, Pio Placo bidding. Since my affair, Jim Hassan, absolutely no affection towards me whatsoever, and I mean nothing, not even Akasis, or a hug, so she's saying 172 months. This guy has totally avoided any contact with her, any physical contact. Even something so innocent as Akasis or a hug, he won't even let me near him to express any type of affection back. I do get in for a hug and Akas's occasionally before he can block maybe. I can tell he doesn't like it, so I didn't do it very often. Even so now listen. The old gym here, even so hair requires me to submit monthly to at-home CD testing. So even though he's not touching her, he's saying, woman, I don't trust you, son. Therefore, I want you tested every month for stats. Wow, man, also since the affair. Jim will not go out in public with me evento family events. Well, he's in beverage setup. He's ashamed. When our boys have a games, we alternate who takes someone yet smile. Turn Jim shows up at the games, but doesn't sit with him. Instead, he normally stands on the sidelines with her fathers and acts like it. I'm not there. The only time we go out together is when we go out of town or on vacations, which we do often. What he orders adjoining rooms with 2 queen beds. Each the boys stay in one room and we stay in the other in separate beds. I look forward to every trip, as these are the times we air closest, and where I've almost been. A blotto break through to him. I've pointed this out to Jim and have suggested moving from our neighborhood. I know if we did, we could start a new gym refuses, and says the only way he will move from the neighborhood is if he gets a job promotion, which requires him to relocate. If not, he plans to stay in our current home until our boys graduate school. The boys don't want to move with them, as all of their friends live within a half-mile of our house, as docile with Jim's friends since the affair. We have lost all friendships I had in our neighborhood. Stephen Marshall divorced 8 months after D-Day, but Marcia and her kids still live in the same house down street, all the neighborhood women. I was once so close to have basically come off and blame me for breaking up that family. Well, not only do they blame Yo for breaking up that family, they're saying, hey, I want to keep this woman away from my husband because she may die. Saying as such, my home has become oppressive of sorts, as when I'm here. I never go out front and just stay inside or in me backyard tending to my gardens. My boys are always out in the neighborhooder. They have their friends over to our house, including Marka and Steve's kids. Thankfully, nothing has really changed much in their world. Jim does the Sammy's good friends with all the neighborhood men. The guys are ether over at our house, smoking cigars, sipping bourbon at night on our back porch, or he's at one of their homes. So these guys just like hanging out after work and relaxing. Jim basically goes to work, then to the gym, and then comes home, fixes himself something to eat, and then it's off to a game or practice, or socializing with friends. He doesn't eat dinner with us and will not eat anything I make anymore, although he did sneak a few cookies I made the other day. On the weekends, he fires up the grilling, only eats what he cooks, none of me dishes, so this guy doesn't even want to eat any food that she's preparing through each day dinners I have with my boys. Have been a great bonding experience for Usti. Like to eat shortly after getting home from school, so the 3 of us normally have dinner around 4 o'clock. I have everything prepared, and they set Theta will help me with final food. Prep then help clean up after dinner. I cherish this time as it is really brought us closer, and has taught them valuable skills. Well, that's good. I mean, having dinner together like a family day. Although your husband should better as well. That's a good thing, and teaching them how to cook and how to clean up, and giving them that discipline. Applaud you for that. They even help main the garden, where we have created an own space in our backyard with landscaping. So in summary, some things in me life are really great, while some aspects are just awful. I guess this is just a long way for me to ask whether you think this marriage is worth continuing as is, or if I should just let Jim go now and give him the financial fit as if he'd stayed with me. I know deep down he's not happy. How could he bet's clear? He no longer views me as his wife or lover, just as a co-parent, which we are both great at, by the way. I love Jim so much and will carry the burden of what I did to him for the rest of my life. I want nothing more than to get back to the loving relationship with him I once had, but I don't think he will ever let us go. There, see, now she's blaming him again. She's saying, I don't think he will ever let us go there. Let him know what you think I should do. I'd really appreciate any suggestions, any on a house, for how I could successfully earn back the love and trust of my husband after betraying him so brazenly. Thank you. Amy, let me tell you, some Athinger never going to win back his trust. I don't care what you do. the trust will never come back, and the love he still has for you is different now than it was previously. Never going to bathe. Same, therefore, my recommendation to both you and Jim is to divorce, go your separate ways, and rebuild your lives. That would be the best thing for you, your husband, and for your children. And okay, now, let's take a look at a few that she got from that community. But before we do, I want to remind you, if you are liking what Yahoo is so far, hit that like button. That will help get this video seen by people over the world. Now let's take a look at some of these responses that she received. The first one's from a woman. It says, Amy, I think in your case, what will draw your husband back to you is the distance. You should stay married Bucksburg for a while. Rent an apartment somewhere nearby so you can still have that quality time with your boys. As they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder. I think Jim will quickly reap assistance. I do hope you work things out. The Sioux seem so well matched. Well, I don't think they seem so well matched. I think they're opposites, to be honest. With youth, next response is from a man. He says, you really love your man, you see, though. Will set him free and allow him to keep the majority of the fortune heaven. You've already taken his pride and dignity and destroyed. His soul isn't that enough. For you, he'll never trust you again because you are untrustworthy. Another Charles, Steve crosses your path. In the future, you'll do the same damn thing well. I have to agree with this guy because she's obviously got a type of guy that she is. Just attract Tetsuo, and as she said herself, she admitted it's like a feral attraction. Like a wild animal, she's not going to be able to resist it. The next respond is from a woman. She says it's clear that you are physically attracted to a certain type of man and are mentally attracted to a certain type of man of Charleston. Steve being the former. Her and Jim Latter in your 20s and 30s. That physical attraction is much more powerful, but I assure you, in time, mental attractiveness and love of a good man like Jim is far more important hanging to him. So this woman sounds like she speaks from experience here. And Fefano response is from a guy, he says one, like you are the reason I've not yet married you. Amazes me how Ken go 4 years being a loyal wife and then immediately hop in the sack with any strange man that gets your juice flowing. I just don't understand this encounter beautiful women all the time, but I would never think of doing anything with them because I'm in a relationship with my girlfriend. Good grief. He says, and now for the updates. Saying she's got 2 updates here. She's Goten, interim update, and then she has a final update. So we can see how everything turned out. So her first update. Here comes S. Weeks after her original post, she says, I've come back Toga. An update on my situation last month. I took the advice that a number of you gave me and decided to move out of the house for a while to give her marriage some space. I got a shorter rental on a nice furnished apartment nearby and have been living there ever since. Why miss not being in the same house as my husband and my boys and miss me. Gardens, it has been a relief getting out of that neighborhood. There are just so many terrible memories and bad publicity, all of which I know are my fault. Not excusing it anyway, what I caused it when I broke the news to Jim of Medicity. He seemed surprised and a little sad and asked a lot of questions. His reaction told me a lot. It told Method he still loves me. I saw it in high size. I pick up my boys after school and we come over here and eat dinner with them and spend the night a few days a week. Jim and I are flexible on that, and thick as know they can come and go as they please. In either place, the real issue I have now is that since I'm out of the house, I don't get to see Jim much at all now. Am I in a position where I get talk to him so I end up calling him, asking him stupid questions multiple times a week, just so we can keep in touch? We've had a number of long conversations, sessions about everything gunned. Nothing at all recently, which Eisenhower indication that the man still owes. Me, I know I love him. That's all for now. Thanks, and take care. And again, you have enough. Situation here, where with this woman, you know the cheater, is slowly reeling the guy back in. You can't see him starting to break down. He was sad that she moved out, and now he's talking to her, having long conversations. The phone be strong. Jim, be strong no for. The final update. In this final update came 5 months after the update we just reviewed, she says. I've delayed coming back to update as I wanted to give time to enable me to provide a complete perspective to my situation. A journey. Talk about a roller coaster. Life definitely has its ups and downs. First, the downside after 2 years into our second marriage, Jim Disadetta thought it would be best for us to divorce. What she's talking about here when she's referring to her second marriage as, since they put that postnuptial agreement in place, Jim said, while Hester loves me and would like to possibly reestablish a romantic relationship at some point in the future. He just can't do it while we're married. I don't understand what he means, but he explained. At Something Psychology, he said, while we're still married, he feels disrespected and betrayed. But after we divorce, he thinks can let those feelings go well. That's because if he remains tethered to yonder marriage, then he's going to feel disrespected. He's going to feel less than. He's going to feel embarrassed. He's going to feel like a sin, like a hit is on. Want that a man wants to feel strong. Whereas if he divorces you now, of a sudden, he takes back all of the power. And if he decides to date you very once in a while, or even treat you like a friend with benefits, he's now in control of them. Relationship, he said, it would be like dating again, and promise him we would go out to celebrate waterfalls. The day it's final, impossible night, I know this sounds like a crazy ploy to divorce me without guilt in his part, but I'm up for it. If it means I can keep this man in my life as me, partner, lover, and friend. If we do reconnect, Jim made it clear we will never get remarried. Well, good. Jim, because you were worrying Metho for a while, he feels if we truly love each other, a binding contract is in this area. I agree with that statement, but I do wish there was some way, do this without divorcing me, ask for the divorce, I'm voluntarily letting him keep 3 AR of our marital assets. Evan thought, he didn't fulfill the stipulations of the post now. I'm also not going to pursue alimony or child support from him. Well, okay now. I've got to hand it to her if she really is going to do that which. I don't know if I believe it or not, but let's just for her word, she's being fair to her husband in this divorce. I know there are women out there who are going to read this and chide me for being so giving, but I feel he earned the money and would hate. Given all of his fortune to me, if I have remained faithful to him, I made peace with this decision. Listen to this now. She says, even with a ready-sit settlement, I'll be able to live comfortably for the next 8 years, or more without working, but now I am working. So I'm in even better shape there, so he obviously had built up, goodness. Egg for them, this lady was stupid. Iman cheating on this guy with some duddy that works at an auto dealership influence. I mean, I'm not downplaying that job, but obviously, she was married to a high-value guy. To put that all at risk for just the thrill a man house to fit this woman has, to be kicking herself. Even today, in closing, I just want to thank those who sent my responses. You don't know how much your words guided my actions and helped me through this trying time. Before I sign off here, I wanted to give some advice. To men out there have difficulty contra. Temptation, as I obviously don't need advice to you, is resist. Don't do it. Thrill is not worth the risk. It's almost like the juice isn't worth the excuse. As the saying goes, if you feel you can't keep yourself in check, seek professional help. I can assure you, from experience, the short-term high is not worth the long-term loss of love, respect, trust. My best to all of you, Amy Sothet's her story. And I thought it was a great story, and I'm really glad how this turned out. I mean, the fact that Jim remained in that marriage with her, and it was a miserable existence. He wouldn't touch it. He wouldn't eat any off food that she made. He wouldn't goop in public with her. That's no way told him. Why didn't he just cut it off? Yup, no. He was looking probably financial like. Oh yeah, if I stick it out with her for, whatever that time frame she had in there, I think it was 30 months or 36 months. I'm going to keep 25% more of my fortune, which obviously was a lot of money according to what she saved, but I'll tell you what, money is not worth giving up your happiness for, so let's take a look at some of the morals off this story, and there were a ton in here, but I just picked out 4 key ones that I thought were good takeaways. The first one, when a woman truly desires a man, she will move mountains to get Hyman, do everything to please him. Remember that. There's very little work that the man has to do in that case. Okay, she is going to pursue him aggressively if she really wants him next. If you had to work her to get her, you're probably not her first choice. Remember that, guys. If you to date this woman and take her there by her there, and she's not giving you all that good stuff, and she's making you wait months and months, chances are you're another first choice. If you were not her first choice, it is logical that the chances she will cheat would be higher these. No question about that. I haven't seen any studies to that extent, but it just makes logical sense, right? And infinitely, it's best to divorce and provide your kids with 2 happy homes versus staying together in a miserable one. I said that on the last video too. Don't stay in that environment because your kids are witnessing what's going on, and they are saying, oh, you know what, marriage of business? You know this must be how marriages are, just miserable. You know dad and mom really not liking each other, and mom cheated on dad. You don't want your kids to go through that mess. So those are my thoughts on this story. Now I want to hear from you.